Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Andrew Capel. Let's get started. Welcome everyone to the Why, What, How show. We're doing this live and excited to be here with Tom. Not going to spoil any thunder and let's jump right into it, Tom. So why do you do what you do?
Howdy, Andrew. I do what I do because I want to make the global economy slightly more efficient. So there's an awful lot of wasted time between buyers and sellers of, do I have a problem? Is it a real urgent and important problem? And between people trying to solve their own problems, there's a lot of wasted time doing that. And then salespeople trying to find problems to fix or customers to sell to. This could be two different things. An unbelievable amount of wasted time. And so if we could make the global economy slightly more efficient, I'm looking for 2%. That's all I want, is improve the global economy by 2%. Boom.
What would the impact? What would the metrics be on that improvement? It sounds like a pretty good case.
Yeah, it's whenever you look at like the total account possibilities, we're talking trillions of dollars here, but
you take a small little percentage of that. Yeah, you can move the decimal point a few spots, and I think you'd still do pretty well.
Yeah, even if I miss my goal. So if my goal is $2 trillion, even
by
if I miss it,
even
if I miss it by 100x, I'm still laughing.
Yeah, great. Well, and what is the reason that what's the problem that you've seen across your career? Like, it sounds like it's something that you've noticed over time, and then now you're coming across a solution to figure it out.
Yeah, so I have a philosophy degree, and I think about how do we do stuff a lot. And one of the guiding principles that you want is, if you're going to make a decision, it should be an informed decision. But having served in both strategy and operations teams and in marketing teams and certainly in sales teams, the way that people make decisions is very from the gut, and that's inefficient. So if there were a consistent framework for making better decisions, then I'm all part of that. And traditionally, the business case has been the format and the home of where an organization makes a decision. Now, this is not the kind of business case that sales teams just kind of flip over the wall. It's an actually useful business case where you are really weighing the pros and cons of where to invest your limited money to make the biggest improvements in your organization. So I think that there is a big gap in how we make decisions, and I've identified the business case as being the vehicle by which I can make the biggest impact. Now, there's two kinds of business case. There's, like I said, there's the internal business case that you're actually trying to make a decision. And then there's the raggedy business case that salespeople put together, where the business case is, you should buy my stuff, and they think they're done. What a business case provided by a sales team should be is an assistance in that decision-making process. The whole job of the salesperson should be to help the buyer make an informed decision. So I want to make business cases better, and I want to make them better for both the buyer to make a smarter decision and better for the seller to make their value case more mindful, more convincing, and more credible.
And what are the options in a business case? And so Tom, like, over the past in your career journey, have you seen a lot of good ones? Have you seen a lot of bad ones? Like, have you looked at that?
Yeah. So most business cases, I've done a diagram actually. There's people who do great business cases. They do them, but they do them poorly. They can't do them, or they won't do them. And so if you figure that those top 10% of people are doing a really thoughtful analysis of the problem and the various options that are available in front of them, I like to say there's always three choices for any single problem in the whole world. You can do nothing, you can fix it yourself, or you can find a vendor. And the best business cases look at those three choices as analytically as possible so that they can make a wise decision. And it's not just make a wise decision, it's also have something to cover yourself later. The number of times I've seen someone say somebody should do something, but there's no real concrete plan. And then it just gets worse and worse. And eventually the boss says, why didn't somebody do something? If you have a business case in place, then you can say, these are the pros and cons. And we as a company have mindfully decided to do nothing. But it's a great decision. Most problems, you should do nothing because they're not really important enough to fix. But if you've done the analysis, then later on, either you can grab it off the shelf real quick and fix it, or you can say, look, I recommended that we fix it, but you guys didn't do it. So business cases or could be the way, an organized way that sales and customers get together to figure out what should we actually do.
Right. And how are you thinking about doing this with SuperCase?
Yeah, so SuperCase started as SuperCase is a framework for a much better business case. And the idea is it started off life as a framework that I've been using for a long time for how to quantify problems, understand, do I even have a problem, dig into the root causes. Because if you don't understand the root causes, you can fix a symptom with a Band-Aid, but if the actual problem is still festering, then you just have to keep applying Band-Aids rather than doing a little bit of suturing. So figure out the root cause. Nearly always, once you figured out the true root cause, then the fix is obvious. But it's just a question of whether it's too expensive or not. So the fix is X, and then do I want to do nothing? Do I want to do it myself, or do I want to find a vendor? So the idea of SuperCase is, as a framework, it walks a seller through that process so that they can easily do it. But my insight was that the real problem, nobody disagrees that we should all have business cases. Everyone said, we absolutely, of course you should have a business case. But reps can't or won't. And then so I did a second level of research on why is that? And it's primarily because they don't see the value of the output, because they think that customers won't believe it anyway. And frankly, it's a lot of effort to do a good one. So they're thinking, why should I go to all this effort? I'm crunched for time anyway. I've got to fill in all these reports. I don't have time to make an artifact that I fundamentally don't believe that the customer will appreciate anyway. So if you get down to the root cause of this problem, it's that it is reps don't think that they're worth doing, and the customer's probably not going to believe it anyway. That's the rootest of the root causes. So the fix is, well, design a business case template that is easy to make so that the rep can do it real easy, and make it actually helpful for the customer. The answer to that then is, good old AI. But it can't just be, hey, AI, make a business case for me, because I've done a lot of the tests. I've done testing with a lot of the AI business case products, and it looks good, but it's very flowery language. And you realize, having read it, it actually didn't tell me anything, because it's, the good old LLM trick of sounding substantive when there's actually nothing there. There's no juice in there. So part of SuperCase is making sure that it's not just spitting out meaningless dribble, and is actually helpful to the customer. And the framework describes how to do all that.
Okay. And in terms of short-term and longer-term plan and vision, how do you plan to impact 2% efficiency in the economy?
I've two goals. Internally, my goal is that operations teams would adopt a SuperCase framework so that they can do much better prioritization in their own orgs for what should we do next. If I can get that to be a standard, and there's nothing special about what I'm doing, it's just I'm trying to codify what common sense says as to how to address a problem so that orgs can do apples to apples comparisons. That's one side. And on the second side, if I can effect change across selling so that reps are actually more helpful, I think it'll make a big difference. And there's a reason why I think now is important about this. We've all seen the AI revolution coming in. We all know that it's going to change our jobs somehow, but I think one of the biggest ways it's going to change it is that reps will no longer be able to be demo jockeys and close personal friends. they're going to need to actually provide value. So we've been talking about value selling for 15, 20 years, but there was still a role for the salesperson who just rolled in, walked through the deck, and then did the demo. Nowadays, AI can walk through a deck and do a perfectly good job of explaining, like, here's the product, just fine. And a customer can ask their own LLM, how should I fix this problem? So the value of the rep is diminishing dramatically. What that means is that they need to find a new role for themselves. And the role is to take that kind of secret sauce that their company knows, the stuff that they know that nobody else knows, and actually help the customer understand their problem better. So we really, really now, for sure, for real, need to become more consultative sellers, because the easy bits of the job are going to be automated away within a year.
That's interesting and important. And Tom, so for folks that are interested in implementing or testing out the SuperCase and getting started, what are the paths to do so?
You can go to supercase.ai. I'm sticking to the you can do it yourself part for real. So I'm more than happy to show you how to do this yourself. It's intellectually, it's not difficult to know what to do, but the actual doing takes ages. It takes a lot of effort to stand up both the point of view, like how to understand what you know that nobody else knows, and structuring that such that an LLM can suck it in and make use of it, and then setting up your whole tech stack so that all this stuff works as easily as it needs to work for a rep to actually do it, which is a pretty high bar. So go to SuperCase. You can go to Amazon. You can buy my book, Slightly More Efficient Buying, Slightly More Efficient Selling, which is kind of where all these ideas came from.
Okay, so the book and the website, and so you're giving people the self-implementation, and then do you advise them? Do you do it with them? Do you do it for them? Or what are the options?
Yeah, the easiest thing, if you buy the book, you can absolutely just do it by yourself. Just apps, hardcore DIY. If you call me or book an appointment on the website, then part of my sales process is figuring out, is this burning you? Should you do it yourself, or should you find a vendor, or should you do nothing?
You have the manual. You have your sales process is public.
Yeah, it's glorious. And if you make your sales process the same way, you'll have a lot more credibility in your in your market, and people will actually come to you for advice rather than resentfully taking your demo request.
Common sense. It's not rocket science, but it's not easy, and it's important. So, Tom, thanks for joining. We'll put the links to Slightly More Efficient Buying and Selling in the show notes, and we'll also link to SuperCase.
All right, thanks, Andrew.
All right. Thanks for checking out the show. Please follow along on YouTube, LinkedIn, and wherever you get your podcasts.